They're targeting children and they know it and they don't care. This is when we talked about earlier when I was explaining how if you're trying to make more money every payday than you made the last payday, that eventually you start crossing lines and doing some dirty stuff. Well, they eventually got to the point where in pursuit of more money this quarter than last quarter, all right, we got to start targeting these kids. They're open season on these kids. And so we create these food products, Lunchables, that's targeting the kids and targeting the parents. Any any chef with a child or has children in your family that you care about, you should take that as a personal campaign to address Lunchables and show people a better way to eat, better way to feed their children. Lunchables is that is just straight poison, man. What can you I saw I saw one the other day. One of the people I train, the grocery delivery messed up her order somehow. They really messed up. She's a vegetarian, been vegetarian for decades, like way before it became popular. And they replaced two things in her order. She had it delivered, and they put it wasn't Lunchables. It was a Lunchables competitor. I don't remember the name, but she don't eat that stuff. She don't feed that stuff to her kids. They sent that to the wrong house, definitely. But we used that and made a video about it, and it had turkey in it, and it had turkey and whatever the other things were, and the turkey we that was in February, and and it expired sometime in April or May, something like that. What what kind of turkey can you put on the shelf and it lasts for months? And this is what they're, they're suggesting that you feed your child. These these food products are not food. And so uh Lunchables are a salt bomb, sodium bomb, whatever you want to call it, full of chemicals, preservatives, Lunchables, and the whole category of products in that group. These packaged lunches targeting children. This is why we have this incredible spike in childhood juvenile diabetes that did not used to exist. If you talk to doctors who are in their mid 50s or older, they will tell you that kids didn't have diabetes when they went through medical school. This was just not a thing back then. And that back then wasn't that long ago. So how did we get so quickly from this being something that did not exist when these doctors were in medical school to it being a major part of this public health crisis? It's the food. Stuff like these prepackaged lunches. We're getting these kids hooked on salt, hooked on sugar. This is where this high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes is coming from. And then that's just that's just from the salt and the sugar. Now we got to talk about the food additives, these known toxins, things that produce cancer, things that produce. I'll give you an easy example. Let me show you one. Welcome to the main ingredient. I'm Lindsay Ruffin, your host, cooking show advisor, and owner of Park Road Studios, where we make cooking shows easy. Today, we're going to talk about an article that I saw, a public health policy article that's a really high level article discussing the food crisis that we have, the public health crisis we have because of food. And this article really covers all of the bases. It touches on all of the key issues that are a problem. The problem with the article is that it's written at a really high level, and most people are not going to understand it. And what we're going to talk about today is how you can use your cooking show to take what this article is describing and break it down for people into a way that they can understand it and take action to improve their health, because we have an epidemic, a global epidemic of chronic illness, and it's caused by what we eat. Type 2 diabetes is out of control, especially among young people. High blood pressure, obesity, cancer, all of these things have skyrocketed in recent decades, and it's because of what we're eating, ultra processed food. One admin note for the folks who are on Instagram: you probably want to go. Probably the best way for you to participate in this live stream is actually to switch over to my YouTube channel at Park Road Studios. I'm broadcasting this to Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and as well as in my private community, the Cooking Show Accelerator, via Zoom. And you're probably going to have a better experience on the Instagram. Folks specifically will have a better experience on YouTube because there's this, Instagram is a vertical platform. What I'm showing you and what I'm going to be reading to you, the visuals that I have, you're not going to really be able to see all of that stuff on Instagram. The reason I'm broadcasting it to Instagram is because I know I have followers there. And it's important for you to understand that if you're trying to build a business with a cooking show, which is what most people come to me for, Instagram is probably not the best platform for you. It doesn't have all of the tools that you need to communicate as an adult, communicate effectively as an adult. Most of the people who come to me are Gen X people or maybe a little bit older. And Instagram is just really not the best platform for you to be able to communicate the way you want to communicate. And that's why a lot of people don't like posting on social media, because the tools just don't work well for them. You're really on the wrong platform. And I'm going to show you today why LinkedIn is the platform that a lot of chefs, most of you are not using it at all. Most people don't use LinkedIn at all. And there's such a huge opportunity for chefs on LinkedIn. You can take exactly what you're doing already on Instagram, take that over to LinkedIn, and you will have much more success because nobody's there posting food photos. Everybody and their mama's on Instagram posting. But if you go to LinkedIn, pretty much nobody posts. Only about 1% of the people on the platform post. So if you really want to stand out as a chef, take your food photos over there. And that gives you the opportunity to get corporate contracts, and those are big paydays. But that's another issue for another day. The article that I'm talking about today is called Challenges for Regulatory Responses to Ultra Processed Foods. And what they're discussing in this paper is all of the problems that ultra processed food has created. And I'm going to read this section by section, and then we're going to discuss it. I'm going to translate this rather, because this really does require quite a bit of translation for the average person. Ultra processed foods were first highlighted as a health concern by Monteiro and colleagues in 2009 and codified in the 4-category NOVA classification scheme widely used in research today. Monteiro's concern at the outset was that the previously healthy and sustainable traditional Brazilian diet was being eroded by rapid growth in the marketing, sales, and consumption of highly processed foods produced by large corporations, a pattern now recognized globally. Multiple longitudinal studies using the NOVA classification over the past decade have identified associations between higher consumptions of ultra-processed foods and a wide range of chronic, non-communicable disease in many countries. So what they're talking about there is the public health crisis, the global public health crisis because of ultra-processed food. These chronic, non-communicable diseases in many countries. Chronic and non-communicable. Chronic meaning it's an ongoing disorder. High blood pressure, if you don't get that fixed, that's something that you deal with for life. Diabetes, if you don't get that fixed, that's something that you're dealing with. Cancer is something that you don't have it for a weekend. You have cancer for a long time if you're lucky. Lucky enough to survive it. It's not a short-term condition. These conditions have exploded. And so the non-communicable part, this is something that everybody will understand with us having gone through this global pandemic where there was a disease that you could communicate from one person to another. One person can give this disease to another person, or 5 people or 10 people. That's communicable. Well, non-communicable, diabetes, if you have diabetes, you can't just give that to somebody. If you have cancer, you can't just give cancer to somebody. If you have high blood pressure, you can't give high blood pressure to somebody. So this explosion in the incidence of these chronic diseases, these non-communicable chronic diseases, well, where is it coming from? All of these people who did not used to have these conditions are now getting them, especially our young people. And where is that coming from? And the answer is our food, the ultra processed food that we're all consuming, full of so many food additives that are known toxins, particularly in the United States. We have it worse than anywhere else in the world. We have so many additives in our food in the United States that are illegal in other countries because they are known toxins. And this is something that you can do something about with your cooking show. And just so you know the numbers, we have over 10,000 food additives that are legal in the United States. And in Europe, there's about 400 food additives that are legal. We have about 10,000. Europe has about 400. The reason that's the case is because in Europe, food companies have to prove that what they're putting in the food is safe. In the United States, we have a self-certification system where these companies get to just say that it's called GRAS, GRAS, generally recognized as safe. These companies get to self-certify that what they're putting, whatever they've invented and are putting in our food is safe. And that's why we have over 10,000 chemicals, food additives in our food that are illegal in countries around the world because they are known toxins. And I'll talk about that, some specific ones later today, but so let's keep going. Scrolling down a bit, now writing in Nature Food, Northcott and colleagues have undertaken, something that forgot to point out, this NOVA classification system. Here's what NOVA is. This is something that the public health folks in Brazil came up with, and it's a classification system that breaks down food into 4 groups. 3 groups are unprocessed. Three levels of processing: unprocessed, or minimally processed, processed culinary ingredients, processed foods, and then ultra processed foods. So what does that mean? Processed food is basically, it can be as simple as if you have an orange and you cut it into orange wedges for your kids' soccer team. That food has been processed. You process that orange by cutting it into wedges. That's a simple example of basic processing, minimal processing. Much higher level processing is making a smoothie, for example. You put a bunch of stuff in the blender and you blend it all together. That's a higher level of processing than simply cutting an orange into 4 wedges. But these are all things that you can do at home. The primary definition for ultra processed food is things that you cannot produce in your home kitchen or your commercial kitchen, even for that matter, if you're a professional chef. Ultra processed food has chemicals in it, food additives in it that you do not have access to. You can't go buy it anywhere. You don't even know what those additives are. That's the primary working definition of ultra processed food. And it's important for you to know this as a chef, because one of the pushbacks that the food industry likes to do is, well, there's no real definition. How do you define what ultra processed food is? It's not really the problem, blah, blah, blah. They're treating this like this is a court proceeding where it's innocent until proven guilty. We have enough evidence of so many people developing these chronic illnesses, obesity, and everything that comes along with that, high blood pressure, diabetes. We don't need to prove anything. We can see it with our own eyes. They're taking a position that they're not the problem. They're basically following the same playbook that the tobacco industry wrote years and years ago and executed for so many decades. You can't prove that we're the problem. Well, yeah, we don't need to prove it. We can just see the evidence. And so it's important for you to understand what that ultra processed definition is and this NOVA classification system, so that you can teach it and explain it to the people who are your audience. This is how you can use your cooking show, part of how you can use your cooking show to educate people. So let's go back to the article. Now writing in Nature Food, Northcott and colleagues have undertaken an initial assessment of regulatory responses to UPFs globally. They then analyzed these policy actions using three frameworks to identify their intervention mechanisms and their relative regulatory strength. The authors found that the majority of the identified policy interventions suffer from poor design, for example, failing to ensure population reach and relying on individual willpower, have been dominated by high agency interventions, making high demands on individuals, which risk widening inequalities in diet and health. So, what are they talking about here? They're talking about the government response to the initial issue that they pointed out when they identified ultra processed food and created the categorization system in 2009. They've looked at the government responses to it. And what they're saying is that these responses from governments around the world have fallen way short. And one of the things that they point out is from poor design, failing to ensure population reach and relying on individual willpower. Failing to ensure population reach means they're not getting the information to the people who need it. And this is where your cooking show on YouTube fits in. First of all, a cooking show is accessible. Everybody understands what a cooking show is. People love them. They love to watch them. And YouTube is everywhere. Everybody has access to YouTube, knows how to use it, to the point that YouTube is now the number one TV streaming platform in US households. So if you have a cooking show on YouTube, you have a cooking show on the big screen TV inside people's homes all over the United States. So what you present through your YouTube channel, you're taking it directly to people inside their homes. You're reaching everybody. And recently, YouTube crossed another milestone where more people actually watch YouTube on their television than they do on their mobile devices. So YouTube really is the new TV. This is the new public broadcasting service because anyone in the public can put themselves on YouTube and broadcast themselves to the world. And so this is another example of how you can use your cooking show to be a part of this problem. You can take the information to people directly inside their homes. So let's go back to this article. Regulation of UPFs remains in its infancy. Scroll this up a little bit. There we go. With no substantive evidence of effectiveness to underpin replication. Governments have expressed doubt about causality, demanding more mechanistic evidence on the relationships between UPFs and health outcomes before legislating. What you're seeing there is the unseen hand of the food industry, the lobbyists. There's a lot of money, multiple billions of dollars that the food industry puts into lobbying our congressional representatives in the United States. I don't know how they do it in other countries, but in the US, our Congress people are bought and paid for by various types of industries, pharmaceutical industry, food industry. And what you're seeing here is they're again saying that there's been no proven connection between these ultra processed food products that we've created and the public health. So it's improper for the government to interfere and introduce legislation because there's no proof. Well, we have, again, more than enough evidence that the food that we're eating is making people sick, and the government officials are not taking action because they're getting so much money from the food industry that's creating these food products. These are things so we're not going to be able to count on the government, because that's one of the points that they're going to make in this, well, kind of the overall point of this article is what they're trying to do is make the case for what the governments around the world can do differently. And my contention is that the governments are not going to do anything differently because the people who are in charge of making those decisions are taking money from the food industry, which is the problem itself. They're the industry that's created this problem. And so the people who they're paying, the people who are on their payroll, are not going to take action to change anything. That's why they pay them. Northcutt and colleagues also focus on the need for system change. The ways in which people acquire and consume food have changed continuously, but there has been one overwhelming trend. Although humans have moved gradually from hunter gatherers to agrarians to traders over millennia, the number and scale of vertically and horizontally integrated corporations that now dominate food systems globally has risen over only a few decades. Most humans are now dependent on these corporations for nutrition. They already dominate most high and middle income countries, and their market growth is rapid in low income countries. The dominance of these corporations has seen a drive towards relatively cheap but nutritionally poor foods designed for convenience and made hyper palatable and aggressively marketed to encourage overconsumption. These economically and politically powerful food corporations exert considerable control over what is available in food retail chains and what is grown and how. These relationships represent a complex, adaptive economic system that has been designed to maximize shareholder value. That is a mouthful, and I'm going to break it down piece by piece. And this, again, is why your cooking show is so important. There's some very common sense stuff here that you will understand easily if you don't already understand it from hearing it. But I'm going to break it down and ask you to think about how you're going to break it down even further using your cooking show to help mom and pop homeowner, you know, Joe Citizen, Jane and Joe Citizen, regular people who just need help learning how to eat better. So let's start with the top. The ways in which people acquire and consume food have changed continuously. We've moved from agrarians and hunter-gatherers to now corporations are dominating the food system. Go back in human history, everybody grew their own food. They caught their own food. Then we advanced to the point where certain people grew food and other people traded things to get food. Now we've gotten to the point where big companies create everything. They create all of our food. That's where we get everything from. And they really don't care about nutrition. This is this is discussed at the bottom of this highlighted section where they talk about the relationships represent a complex adaptive economic system that has been designed to maximize shareholder value. What that means is these big companies, these big publicly traded companies, all they think about, their only goal is to make more money next quarter than they made this quarter. That's how these companies work. To keep these shareholders happy, they have to keep growing. They have to keep making more money and more money and more money and more money. Every quarter, they got to make more money than they made the previous quarter. And that's just not sustainable. Over a long period of time, you get to the point where you're going to have to start taking some shortcuts and doing some things that are questionable and beyond questionable. So I'll draw an analogy here, and I hope this helps make this clear for folks. Imagine if you have a job, and this job pays you enough to pay all your bills. You have enough money to send your kids to whatever school you want to send them to. You have enough money to put money away for retirement, so you're not worried about retirement. You have enough money to enjoy life right now. You're able to go buy the things that you like, not excessive stuff, but just, you're able to be happy. If you see something that you like, you can either buy it right away or you save up 2 or 3 months or 6 months and you can buy pretty much anything you want. So imagine that's you. Money is not a concern for you. You get a check every 2 weeks. It's the same amount. And that check that you get every 2 weeks is enough for you to for money to not be a concern in your life. You got other problems, but you don't have money problems. You're not worried about money now. You're not worried about money in the future because that check that comes every 2 weeks is all you need to live the life that you want to live. So imagine that's your situation. I know that's not the case for most people, but just imagine that it is. Now imagine that you're in that situation and you decide, you know what? Being happy is not enough. My focus is making more money. I got to make more money every payday than I made the previous payday. So every 2 weeks you get paid. Well, you've decided now that keeping that same paycheck's not enough. every 2 weeks, every payday, you got to get more. Your checks got to be bigger than it was the last time. So every 2 weeks, you got to make more money than you made the previous 2 weeks. And just imagine how long would it take before you have to start doing some stuff that's immoral, unethical, and maybe even illegal because you got to keep making more money. Every 2 weeks, you got to make more money than you made the previous 2 weeks. At some point, you're going to cross a line. You're going to have to because it's just where is this extra money going to come from? So you're going to have to cross a line. And then you're going to have to cross that line again 2 weeks from now because you got to make even more money. And then 2 weeks again, you got to make even more money. So now you're crossing another line. And then it gets to the point where you're just crossing lines. And that you just, if you prioritize making more money over absolutely everything else, imagine how long will it take before you get to where you're doing some stuff that's just not good, not who you were, and just not good for anybody around you. Well, that's how these companies work, these publicly traded companies. To make more money every single quarter forever, at some point, you're going to have to cross some lines where you're just not doing good things. And that's where they've gotten, where the food industry has gotten with this ultra processed food. If with them, it's all about making it cheaper. And then we discussed that in here. The right here where they're talking about design for convenience and made hyper palatable and aggressively marketed to encourage overconsumption. Hyper palatable is that what that means is they make this food that you can't resist and you can't stop eating it. They are basically hijacking your brain function. They have food scientists, psychologists, and other folks who have gone to school and gotten training to understand how the brain works and how we process things. And they use that training to create food products that you can't stop eating. Potato chips are an easy example, but they're just one example where you can't just eat one potato chip. Well, there's been a lot of research done to engineer these food products so that they trigger the pleasure mechanisms in your brain and you can't stop eating this stuff. You start eating it and you can't stop. And then when you finish, tomorrow you're craving more of it. And these are empty calories. This is just, there's no nutritional value in these food products whatsoever. They're engineered for you to overconsume them and then come back tomorrow and overconsume again because you're basically addicted to this stuff. It's engineered to be that way. And that's an example of the kind of stuff that the food industry has gotten into in pursuit of perpetual increasing profits. Every quarter, we got to make more money than we made last quarter to keep these shareholders happy. So let's start engineering food products that people can't stop eating and they overconsume when they do eat it. They're buying too much of it. They're eating too much of it for their own good, for their health. But it works for us because if I can sell you 2 bags of potato chips, I made twice as much money than if I sold you 1 bag. There's that's just where this has gone with them. And when I switch it back, let's take a look at the part where they say we've moved from hunter gatherers to agrarians to traders, and now food companies dominate the food system globally. The farmer, your local farmer at your farmer's market, they're the person who has that job where if the check comes every 2 weeks and it's the same check that allows them to enjoy a happy life, they're happy to do that. They're happy to live that way. But we're not buying from them. We're buying from these food companies that want perpetually increasing profits. If you go to the farmer's market to buy your groceries, you're actually looking face to face, looking into the eyes of the person who grew the food that you're going to eat. They care they care about your health. They care that the food that you're providing to them, that they're providing to you, is quality food because they have accountability. They're going to be back next week. where you can come stand there and look them in the eye, and they're going to be back the week after that and the week after that. They actually care about what they're providing you, the food that they're providing to you. Whereas if you go to the grocery store, you're buying food from whatever company, you have no idea, you have no connection whatsoever to the production or the people who produce that food. And that's where we have this huge disconnect. We are so far removed from our food. We have no idea where it comes from. And this is why buy local is so important. Support your local farmers, buy local. It's not just about supporting them. This is about your health, the health of your family, your children, your spouse, whoever it is you're feeding. This is about your health. And that's what this paragraph, and this is a big part of why I'm making this video or doing this live stream, is this is like a word salad. And all of these words, what they're saying here is, instead of growing our own food or buying it from local farmers, we're buying it from these corporations, and all these corporations care about is money, and they're serving us poison because they have to make more money. That's what all these words say. But this is not like, this is a high level academic paper. It's not really digestible by the average consumer. And that's why your cooking show is so important. You have the ability to take all of this, take this information, maybe not specifically from this report, but the information that it conveys, because this is out here everywhere in many places, and turn it into something that the average consumer can understand. In your cooking show, you just having your conversation, you start out with your ingredients and you say, I got these tomatoes and these leeks and these radishes from my local farmer's market. I always get my stuff from Farmer Joe because it's important to buy local, not just to support them, but because we actually know what's in our food when we buy it from local. They're not putting in the pesticides and all these other things that the big corporations put in. And it's just a healthier way to eat. And then you keep it moving with the rest of your recipe that you're making. So you're conveying the information in a way that people can process it. You're not beating them over the head. You're not writing this complicated paper that people can't understand, or making this long ass video like this one that I'm doing right now. You just drop little pearls of wisdom throughout your cooking show, giving people the guidance that they need to make better food choices. And this is how you help people make choices that are better for their health and the health of their family in a way that is very accessible to them. Cooking shows are incredibly important, and they're not actually discussed in here as a solution, part of the solution to this problem. And I'll get to the next part and show you what I'm talking about. See, intervention, as Northcutt and colleagues highlight, in this context, interventions that simply aim to persuade people to eat healthier food alone will not work. Instead, governments need to enable the development of food environments that help people to eat more healthily, incentivized through availability of healthier products in the right places at the right time and appropriately marketed. Such upregulation of an alternative healthy food system could provide much needed competition for the currently dominant market for unhealthy foods, foster a return to hand prepared food, help reshape societal and business values, and leverage system transformation. So again, here, what they're promoting, it's a lot of words. What they're promoting is the government creating a solution to this problem. I don't see it happening. It takes forever for the government to do anything, and that's when they actually want to do it. In this instance, we're talking about a food crisis that exists because so many people in the government are getting paid to not do anything about it. What they're saying here with creating this alternative healthy food system to create competition for the current market, they're basically talking about creating a parallel food system where we have healthy food competing with unhealthy food, and a marketing campaign to support that. All of that really already exists, but it's grassroots, and you have the opportunity to participate in that. Your way of participating and implementing the suggestions that they have in that paragraph right there is with your cooking show. You're going to promote healthy eating. You're going to teach people how to eat healthy. You're going to promote buying local, supporting your local farmer, going to the farmer's market, getting to know the people who grow your food. That's how you, as an individual, can take control and effect the change that you're capable of controlling. Waiting on the government to do something is never a good idea. It's just not. It's just not the solution. If we wait for the government to save us, look at where we are now. In the United States, stroke is the fourth leading cause of death. Fourth leading cause of death. And according to the CDC, 80% of strokes, 80% of strokes are preventable through dietary change. 80% of the people who have a stroke could have avoided it by changing their diet. If the government, it's gotten to the point where stroke is the fourth leading cause of death. If the government was going to do something about this, they would have already done it. How did we get stroke to be in the fourth leading cause of death when 80% of the strokes are preventable? It's because the government is just not interested in addressing this problem. And another example of that is I think I'll be covering that later in this article. But the top two most subsidized crops in the United States are soybeans and corn. Those are also the two primary ingredients in ultra processed food. So the reason why junk food is cheaper than healthy food is because it's so heavily subsidized. If there were no subsidies for corn and soybeans, it's possible that eating healthy and eating bad would either cost the same, or if those subsidies went to healthy food products, it would definitely end up being cheaper to eat healthy than to eat junk. The reason why bad food, ultra processed food, is cheaper than healthy food is because it's the number one and the number two most subsidized crops that go into producing it. Who's doing that? Those same government officials that they're calling upon here to affect change. At least that's in the United States. The same government that they're calling upon in here to put in this regulation and create an alternative healthy food system. The same government that they're calling upon to do that is the same government that has soybeans and corn as the one and two most subsidized crops, and those are the primary ingredients in ultra processed food. So it's like you asking the person that's created the problem to solve it. If they wanted to solve the problem, they would just stop creating the problem. They already have the mechanisms and the tools in place to do better. They've chosen not to, and they're going to continue to. And that's why for us to get out of this public health crisis, it's going to take individuals. It's going to take people like me doing my part. It's going to take people like you doing your part. And we'll talk a little bit later about what exactly that looks like. Because this is if you take on this challenge of starting a cooking show and building it into and using it to educate people about food, this will be the most profitable thing you ever do financially. And it will be the most fulfilling thing you ever do because you're literally changing lives, you're saving lives. There's a lot of families where they think they have where high blood pressure or diabetes run in the family, and that's not the case. Bad diets run in that family. If you are able to change that family's diet, you will change the trajectory of their health over generations. They stop passing down these bad recipes and these bad eating habits, then they will stop passing down diabetes and high blood pressure, and those things will go away in those families. That's the power that you have as a chef with a cooking show. And those are the stakes. This really is about saving lives. So let's get back here. What's on the last page? They have and again, for any of the folks on Instagram, I'm going to encourage you to watch the replay uh on YouTube, where you'll be able to see this fully. And next time you can actually join from YouTube, where you'll have a better experience and you can actually see all of these things in full, these graphics and such that I'm showing you. They have here this food cycle, which I'll run through briefly, the junk food cycle, where they're explaining how we got into where we are. Food production focused on high volume at low cost calories, investor pressure to drive shareholder returns, and these things combine to produce food that's, we're talking about adding palatability, adding taste. So salt and sugar are the easy buttons to push for food companies to get you to increase your pleasure experience from eating that food. Here, where they say adds value, they're talking about adding value for the shareholder, not for the person who is eating the food. Reduces perishability. This is another really big one, because they will put anything in they will put anything and everything into food to make it last longer on the shelf, because then it makes them more money. The longer it can last, the more money that it makes. And this is something important for you to, another point that you can convey very easily through your cooking show in a way that people will understand it. Food is supposed to expire, okay? Real food expires. You can't just go get, if you grow something in your yard, or go get something from somebody who grew it, you can't just leave that around forever and days and weeks. Most food, you got 7 days. A lot of stuff you got 3 days. You need to consume it within 3 days, or that's it. Well, so many of the products that you get from the grocery store either don't expire at all, or it's like several months or a year. That is not food. If you got something that a food product with some super long expiration date, that is not real food. And that's something that you can communicate, again, through your cooking show. You're showing up once a week. You're talking to people about food. You're explaining food to them. You're teaching them about food. You'd be surprised at how little people understand about food and where it comes from, how far removed we are from the days when we grew our own food. People just don't know where it comes from. I'll bet if you take most kids and you show them corn that's still in the husk, ask them what's in it, they won't know. They don't. How would they know? And when I say kid, that's a relative term, man. That really young people, like under 10 and under, we may have gotten to the point where people 20 and under, if you hand them that, they don't know what that is. They don't, or how you would process that unhusked corn. How do you process that and turn that into corn on the plate? I got a chef that made a video about that, showing she was unhusking the corn and cutting the corn off with the knife to show how, the process of creating corn. You'd be surprised at how many people just don't know where food comes from. And that's something that you can teach with your cooking show, including this perishability thing. Food is supposed to expire. Long shelf life, high margins, investment in advertising. Oh yeah, this advertising thing, man. This is, they're targeting children, and they know it, and they don't care. This is when we talked about earlier, when I was explaining how if you're trying to make more money every payday than you made the last payday, that eventually you start crossing lines and doing some dirty stuff. Well, they eventually got to the point where, in pursuit of more money this quarter than last quarter, all right, we got to start targeting these kids. They're open season on these kids. And so we create these food products, Lunchables, that's targeting the kids and targeting the parents. Any any chef with a child or has children in your family that you care about, you should take that as a personal campaign to address Lunchables and show people a better way to eat, better way to feed their children. Lunchables is that is just straight poison, man. What can you I saw I saw one the other day. One of the people I train, the grocery delivery messed up her order somehow. They really messed up. She's a vegetarian, been vegetarian for decades, like way before it became popular. And they replaced two things in her order. She had it delivered, and they put it wasn't Lunchables. It was a Lunchables competitor. I don't remember the name, but she don't eat that stuff. She don't feed that stuff to her kids. They sent that to the wrong house, definitely. But we used that and made a video about it, and it had turkey in it, and it had turkey and whatever the other things were, and the turkey we that was in February, and and it expired sometime in April or May, something like that. What what kind of turkey can you put on the shelf and it lasts for months? And this is what they're, they're suggesting that you feed your child. These these food products are not food. And so uh Lunchables are a salt bomb, sodium bomb, whatever you want to call it, full of chemicals, preservatives. Lunchables and the whole category of products in that group, these packaged lunches targeting children. This is why we have this incredible spike in childhood juvenile diabetes that did not used to exist. If you talk to doctors who are in their mid 50s or older, they will tell you that kids didn't have diabetes when they went through medical school. This was just not a thing back then. And that back then wasn't that long ago. So how did we get so quickly from this being something that did not exist when these doctors were in medical school to it being a major part of this public health crisis? It's the food. Stuff like these prepackaged lunches. We're getting these kids hooked on salt, hooked on sugar. This is where this high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes is coming from. And then that's just that's just from the salt and the sugar. Now we got to talk about the food additives, these known toxins, things that produce cancer, things that produce. I'll give you an easy example. Let me show you one um, that you probably aren't aware of. Campbell's chicken noodle soup. Good old Campbell's. We go get some chicken noodle soup when it's under we're feeling under the weather. Somebody's sick in our household, whatever. Chicken noodle soup is a tried and true staple for helping somebody feel better. So I took a look at the back of this chicken noodle soup, and this ingredient that I have highlighted here or pointed with the arrow, probably can't see it. It's called carrageenan. Carrageenan is an emulsifier that they use in a lot of food products, and it's a known toxin. Carrageenan will give you ulcers, among other things. And what the food companies will argue is, well, the doses that's required to induce, create that is, why are you using an additive that would give people ulcers? And it's right there on the box. On the can. And that's where we've gotten as a country and in the United States, and it's expanding to become a global problem where they actually the law requires them to list the ingredients, so they list them, and people are not even educated enough to know what they're looking at. When I looked at that and saw carrageenan on there, I was in the grocery store, and this is how I came to create had that can of soup, because I didn't really need any soup, but I was just going to the store to make a point about what chefs can use, how you can use your cooking show as a platform for education. Simply going to the grocery store, grabbing stuff off the shelf, looking at the ingredients. You can take a picture of it like I did and bring it back and use it as a teaching tool to explain to people what it is that they're buying, what's in their pantry. I actually made a video, excuse me. I actually made a video about this Campbell soup and this carrageenan to explain this very point. As a chef, you have the ability, and I would say the responsibility, the obligation, because we're in a public health crisis, and the solution to this crisis is education. And if a chef is not going to deliver food education, whose job is it? Teaching people that things like that nobody would think would cause them harm, like this Campbell's chicken noodle soup, they may need to clean out not may, most of us need to clean out our pantry. If we did an audit of our pantry, knowing what to look for, things like carrageenan, things like, here's another one, natural flavor. Fourth most common ingredient in our food in the United States. The top three is salt, sugar, fat. And then the fourth most common ingredient is natural flavors. What's in natural flavors? We don't know. They don't have to tell us. To meet the definition of natural flavor, it basically is equivalent to, it has to be a derivative of something. There had to be something natural in it that you started with, and then whatever you derive from that, okay, that's it qualifies as natural flavor as long as you started with something natural. The analogy I draw for people is, imagine you got a gallon of water and you squeeze in a drop of lemon juice. That's natural. And then you now are able to call that lemonade. Not really lemonade, but by the rule, I got this one drop of lemon juice in it, I get to call it lemonade. Well, that's effectively what natural flavor, how that works. If they got one drop of whatever natural, it can be at one drop and then a gallon of stuff that they manufactured, and they still get to call it natural flavor. That's the fourth most common ingredient in our food, and you have no idea what's in it. You'll see natural flavor on a whole spectrum of products. You'll see it in the cereal aisle. You'll see it in like pasta sauces. You'll see it in ice cream. You'll see it. So obviously, the natural flavor that's in ice cream, or not even ice cream, we know that's junk food, but something supposed to be healthy. Natural flavor across all these different products is obviously going to be something different, because these are wildly different flavors that this particular food product is supposed to have. What's in natural flavor? Nobody knows. They don't have to tell us. It's going to be different for every product. And that's the fourth most common ingredient in our food, natural flavors. So it seems innocent enough, natural flavors, but you don't know what's in it. So we know it's nothing good in it. So you're using your cooking show to teach people how to do an audit of their existing pantry, what they got at home now, and how to shop so that they're not bringing more problematic stuff into their home and feeding it to themselves and to their family. This is what you can do with a cooking show. And again, it's not beating people over the head. It's not lecturing them. It's just using that, a few seconds here and there in your show while you're teaching them this fantastic recipe to explain what you've chosen and why. Here's how you can, here you make a chicken noodle soup episode. Teach people how to make it. Teach them how to make it. Teach them how to preserve it. So freeze it, or you can jar it and vacuum seal it and store it that way. There, you can just teach people these skills of food preparation so that they're not constantly choosing the fast, easy option, because those fast, easy options 100% of the time are unhealthy, and not like a little bit unhealthy, like haha, this, I'm having my sweet indulgence, my whatever. It's this stuff is killing us, man. We high blood pressure and diabetes are just taking way too many people out. Obesity, combine that with the high blood pressure, the diabetes, or it leads to it, cancer, these chronic illnesses that are coming from what we eat. It's not. It's not. It's a big deal. It's not just like this, casual sweet treat here and there. We're eating this stuff. 60% to 80% of the calories, the daily calories of the average American, are from ultra processed food. That's where this public health crisis has come from. We are just not eating real food anymore, and everybody's getting sick as a result. Let me see. Let's go back here. Read their conclusion, because there was some point here I wanted to make. I can't remember. To date, the kinds of interventions needed to achieve this kind of deeper transformation are politically unpalatable to governments, most of which remain fixated on economic growth. Again, this is all about the money. These the companies are obviously focused just on money. The government officials focus just on money. Until governments embrace alternative economic models in which health, environments, and people are also valued, commercial food systems will continue to maximize their profits and growth from the high added value, unhealthy and unsustainable foods, threatening human populations and planetary sustainability. So, what they're telling you there is, so from the perspective of this paper, again, they're positioning this as an issue for governments to address. And what I'm saying is, if we wait for the governments to address it, it's never going to happen. They're talking about the importance of embracing alternative economic models in which health, environments, and people are also valued. How is that considered alternative? So what the alternative economic models in which health, environments, and people are also valued? That's buying from your local farmer because you care about supporting their business, you care about supporting your own health, and you care about the environment because your local farmer is not running one of these mega farms that's contributing to the climate problems. That's what that is. That's what they're saying right there with embracing alternative economic models in which health, environments, and people are also valued. That's all they're talking about. Buy local. And so, like I said at the beginning, when and this, I'll put a link to this document in the show notes. You'll see that on the YouTube channel. For those who are watching this on YouTube, that's the show notes that I'm referencing, or people who are in my the description box on the YouTube channel on this video, and or for people who are in my cooking show Accelerator, the show notes will be in the article where I post this video. But what they're talking about here with these alternative economic models, that's just buy local. And these are a lot of big words that really are not going to convey the message to the people who need to receive it. So just like I'm taking this paper and having this conversation with you and explaining it, breaking this down, you can break this down even further. This is what you can turn this paper into, because I don't have this ability, but you do. I'm going to show you one of the chefs that I work with. And this, what she's doing, this is Chef Sabina Jules. She owns Motherland Kitchen. This is how you can be a part of the solution to this problem. This is how you can help people eat better. This is how you can take this really high level paper that I've been reading and translate it into something that average people can process. Sabina's teaching folks. She does fantastic things. She's from Cameroon. She's teaching people how to cook with vegetables, and she uses primarily herbs and spices, almost no salt in her cooking. So she's teaching people, and her vegetables. I've never had vegetables this good in my life. The way she prepares vegetables, you want to eat them for breakfast, which is not what we do in America, right? For vegetables, we save it for we eat one fraction of a portion for dinner, and that's it. That's all the vegetables we eat all day. That's why we have a problem with our diets. We need more fiber. That's all this like these weight loss drugs. That's they're just nothing but appetite suppressants that have a whole bunch of ugly side effects. Well, fiber is a natural appetite suppressant and it doesn't have all those side effects. Eat more vegetables. People signing up for all these drugs when they could just eat more vegetables. This is oh yeah, I got this picture here because those are her three. These are what she calls her three bases. This is one's the tomato base, one's the green herb base, and I can't remember what the third one is called. But those are the primary. Those three bases are the primary foundation for all her recipes. Those bases take a while to prepare, but she prepares them and stores them. And when she needs to whip up various dishes for her restaurant, everything is based on one of those three bases. And that's an important reason I had that photo there is her clowning is this because it reminded me of to talk to you about the importance or the ability that you have as professional chefs to teach people how to cook efficiently. I've worked with professional chefs, I've worked with home cooks, and it's night and day in terms of how quickly you prepare food. And so as a professional chef, you have the ability to teach people how to be much more efficient in their home kitchen so that these fast food options are not as attractive because they can prepare great food at home quickly. You can teach them how to prep things in advance, how to have like what Sabina has, her bases that she uses to where you might spend a few hours preparing that one day, but you got enough of it to last for the month. And then it makes it to where you can prepare dishes every night in like 15 minutes. You guys have these skills. You know how to do this because of working in commercial kitchens and having to prepare a lot of dishes fast. You know a lot of shortcuts. You know a lot of tricks that home cooks just don't know. And you teach people how to be more efficient in their home kitchen, then they will cook better in their home kitchen. And so what I wanted to show you is like this is some of her dishes. This is the three greens right there. Those are man, I can't remember it was spinach, mustard greens, and I can't remember what the third one is, but it's three greens and it is absolutely delicious. She gets kids coming to her, well, parents, families bring their kids in, and the kids love the greens. They love the vegetables that she makes. She makes vegetables that kids actually like eating because it's she's using these African spice blends that she also sells, and she just adds flavor to these vegetables that you can't get. You've never had anything like it, and she teaches people how to do this at home. This is her veggie DG vegetable director general. There's a uh, there's a story behind that dish in the Cameroon. Well, the chicken. This is the chicken version, chicken director general. This is the veggie version of it, no chicken. But there's this story, the backstory of this dish and how it's prepared for like the high level officials or whatever. She explains it on her YouTube channel. But again, you're looking at these dishes that she prepares and you see a lot of greenery, a lot of vegetables. This is a sampler that we put together for her Thanksgiving promotion. And I can't remember what the names of all these dishes are, but everything is fantastic. All of it. Man, this lady knows how to cook and she does it without salt. And so you all are able to turn this block of text, this massive big words and all of this, you have the skills as a chef to turn this into this. That's your superpower. You have the ability to take the information that what people need and turn it into something palatable for them so that they can just make better health choices. In that paper, and again, I'll put a link in the show notes. In that paper, what they're relying on is the government. They're saying the government needs to do this. The governments around the world, they need to do that. It's not going to happen. There's just too many people making too much money from the way things are right now, which has all of us sick and more people getting sick by the day. The solution, my solution, is chefs. Because I don't hear anybody discussing the chef's role in this public health crisis. Food education. And when I think of food education, I'm thinking about chefs. What better way is there to deliver food education than a chef hosting a cooking show? So that's what I propose. And in addition to helping people eat better and healthier and doing what you love doing, this is a fantastic business model. You can make more money with a cooking show than any job you've ever had, and it will be more fulfilling. The amount of money that you can make simply teaching one dish a week in your home kitchen, and that's it, will exceed anything else that you can do. There's no better business model than teaching. When you prepare food, I'm talking specifically to the professional chefs. When you prepare a dish in the real world, you can only sell that to one person. When you prepare that dish on camera and turn it into a video and put it in your digital cookbook, you prepared that dish one time and you can sell it to an unlimited number of people. So you just, and it's pure profit. It's just a fantastic business model. It allows you to do what you love. For some chefs who've gotten to, they've been in the industry for a couple of decades or longer, and you're looking for a way out, especially the restaurant owners, teaching. This can be the way that you continue doing what you love, continue earning a living without all of the physical demands of working in a restaurant or running a catering business or a food truck or whatever. So I encourage you to consider that, because we need you. We need you definitely in the United States, and we need you increasingly around the world. This has become a global problem. What I'm looking for here is, here we go. These books that I want to show you. And I will also put this in the show notes. So these books are 3 books that I've picked up recently that are a easier to digest version of that article that I just showed you. But these are books that you can use. You can incorporate this into your cooking show and into your teaching. These guys touch on all of the points that need to be addressed as part of your food education campaign. And so I'll put links to these in the show notes. But yeah, that's what a cooking show is, man. For me, it's not just something fun to do. It is fun, but this is how you can have an incredible impact on other people's lives, as well as an incredible impact on your life and your family financially by creating a work from home business that frees you financially forever. That's what a cooking show is. Those are the things that are at stake. And that's why I created my cooking show accelerator. I'm trying to find as many chefs as possible who want to be part of the solution to this problem, this public health crisis. And so that's why I created my cooking show accelerator. It doesn't cost anything to join. There's a ton of resources in there to help you get your cooking show started. And for some people, that's all they need. They need the help to get it started. Well, my number one suggestion, the first thing I tell people is, I ask them rather, have you recorded a practice video using just your smartphone? Have you, in your kitchen, your home kitchen, your commercial kitchen, whatever kitchen you want to use, have you recorded a practice video with your smartphone? A video that nobody has to see but you. Most of the time, people say no. And then I ask, the next question is there any reason why you can't create that practice video today? Just go on and record a practice video. You're not going to upload it. You're just going to have it on your phone so that you can review it and get some answers to your questions. Because for most people, a ton of your questions will be answered simply by recording that practice video. And most folks haven't done it. So I would encourage you to do that. Step one, if you do not have a practice video, if you've never recorded a practice video, take your phone and set one up. Then, remember, nobody's going to see this video, so don't overthink it. Just put your phone on a tripod or lean it up against a book or whatever you can and record a practice video and start from there and then move forward. And if you have additional questions after that, join the Cooking Show Accelerator. Again, there's tons of resources in there to help you get your cooking show started. I also offer a 5-day challenge where we get your cooking show started and get your work from home business started. We talk about what type of business you want to run, because there's so many different ways to make money with a cooking show. We talk about all those different ways, explore which ones are right for you, and then we lay the foundation. We put those things in place during those 5 days so that you can get that business started and then continue developing it going forward. So that's my contribution to this crisis that we're in. And it is a huge crisis. This is a global crisis. The food industry is making tens of billions of dollars every year, maybe hundreds of billions. The drug companies the pharmaceutical companies that are making money, making these drugs that people have to take because of the food industry, what the food industry has created, the problem that they've created with obesity, with the various chronic diseases, and then people end up going on medication for life. So the pharmaceutical industry is making tens or hundreds of billions of dollars per year. There's so much money out here in healthy eating. And you have the opportunity to change your financial situation and set yourself and your family up for life simply by teaching people how to eat vegetables instead of taking a weight loss drug, which is really just an appetite suppressant. That's all those drugs do. So yeah, if these are the kind of things that you want to be a part of solving this problem, you want to learn how to build a profitable and conscientious business, one where you're not making money by harming people, cooking show is it, man. I'm here to help you whenever you're ready to get started. So use the link in the description box for more information. Thank you for joining me. This went way longer than what I was expecting, but this is an important topic. I will be revisiting this on a regular because we're in a public health crisis. This food problem is not going away anytime soon. And we need as many chefs as possible delivering food education so that people know how to eat to live. I'm here to help you do it whenever you get ready.